Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. We'll start with a small trial to make sure that you can all hear us. If you are a studio fan, can you please clap in your hands? Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to everyone and welcome in this Odoo experience talk about Odoo Studio and most importantly, the new features about Odoo Studio in version 17. And to start this talk, we would like to ask you actually a small question. What does Odoo Studio mean for you? Is it just an app amongst any others? Well, we would disagree on that statement. But maybe you see Odoo Studio as a kind of, code generator with some magic behind. Well, I do agree we could say it that way. Or eventually, you see Studio as a way to meet your customer needs when you feel that the standard of Odoo is lacking a little bit of everything, a little bit of something. Well, actually, we believe that Odoo Studio is about superpowers. And we would like to quote the product owner of this wonderful application, Damien Bouvy, who said that Studio is about giving to end users the superpowers of developers. And this is truly what is it about. Because when you feel that the standard of Odoo is not answering perfectly to your needs, but you are in this frustrating situation that you don't have any coding skills, that you don't know Python, XML, or so on, well, you don't have the right tools. And actually, Odoo Studio is giving you the right tools to behave a bit like a developer. My name is Allan de Permentier. Together with Alexandre, we will introduce you to the new features about this wonderful application in version 17. Before this, we would like to introduce ourselves. So I'm a project manager here at Odoo. So what I do is actually I'm guiding clients in their first step when using the system. So from the moment they decide to trust Odoo to manage their daily operations until the moment they are live with the system and can use Odoo as its full potential. Alexandre, you have a different position in the company.
Yes.
Can you introduce
yes,
yourself
indeed.
as well?
My name is Alexandre. I'm a business advisor at Odoo. My position consists of doing qualification of needs and demos to companies that want to work with Odoo directly.
So you are a salesperson here at Odoo?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, good to know. I will keep that in mind for the future.
Just before starting the presentation, make sure you scan the QR code on the slide. Like that, at the end, you will be able to ask a question. If you cannot scan the QR code on the slide, you have the link at the bottom. It's pad.odoo.com/p/studio17, and we will make sure that you get this QR code at the end of the presentation also.
Yes, and I feel now we are all here for surprises, right? This is what we are here for. Surprises about Odoo Studio. We actually have 4 surprises for you. Alexandre, what do we have in our pack today?
It's time. So first of all, I will introduce you to the new automation features in Studio 17. And then I will show how we improve the approval flows in this version. Then Allan will take the lead to introduce you to the new PDF REPL tool in Studio. And finally, he will explain a brand new link between the Studio and our beautiful website application.
Yeah, and I don't know how you feel it, but when I see this, I feel like it's Christmas already, right? Okay, so let's go. Let's start with the automations. What do we have?
We can start. So, first of all, we have increased the number of triggers we have in this version. You will see during my presentation, we have plenty of new triggers that will increase the power of those automation. Then we also improve the workflow visibility of those automation. As you can see behind me on the screen, you will be able to see your entire automation flow into one screen directly with Odoo. And finally, as Fabien explained yesterday, we also make sure that we have easier access to those automation in this stage of a project, of a CRM. Also, you will see that during the presentation. But I think it's time to do the demo. Maybe, Alain, you have a case to handle in Odoo with automations.
Indeed, it's a very nice slide, but it should be better to see that working in real life. You said you are a salesperson here.
Yes.
So I guess that you are using the CRM, the sales module on a daily basis. What could you do eventually is show us how you are using these modules, and most importantly, how this new automation feature applies to your daily flow.
Yes. So as every efficient salesperson, I'm using, of course, Odoo CRM application. When you open this application, you get your opportunities classified by stages. And the first improvement that we did in Studio 17 is that you can access in 2 clicks of a button your automation super easily. And as you can see, the goal of this version with Studio is to increase the usability of Studio, and you get a tutorial when you are opening this automation for the first time to make sure that the end user can properly use these features.
Well, I'm stopping you here because you are now in automations, but you did not open Studio at all, right?
Yes.
Does it mean that we no longer need to open Studio, or does that work actually?
It means that you will have to have Studio on your database, but you have new links to get access better to your automation. Of course, you can do like in version 16, I will do that later in the presentation, open Studio, go to your automation.
Okay, well, let's start by creating a first automation.
Yes, let's do that. So as a salespeople, it's super important to be proactive with the pipe. But just before handling the case, I just want to show some things, the new triggers that we have. We have brandly new triggers in this version. And personally, I really like the fact that as of version 17, you can now trigger automation when you are receiving or sending a message in Odoo. What do you think, Alan?
Yeah, I do think it's amazing. My favorite here actually is the date feature, the date trigger. Because now what you can do and think of doing, for instance, is just introduce a date field onto your model, for instance, for the birth date of your customers, whatever, or specific day, specific event of the year, and then you can trigger those automations based on this date.
Exactly, but let's focus on our case. So what I want to do is to say to Odoo, okay, as soon as I get a lead assigned to me, I want to get in touch with the customer. So to do that, I will maybe send an email.
True.
Super easy. You see, with the new design of Odoo, we get widgets to make sure that it's super easy to configure your automation flow. And that's what we will be doing. So I will add an action. You will see we have a brand new screen with widgets that represent actions to do in your automation flow. It's super easy. You can just click on the action you want to do, send an email. For example, you select your template. For me, it will be welcome demo, and I will send that email as the message. It's super easy to do.
Okay, so if I understand you well, we have here a main automation, which is called stage is set to new, right?
Yes.
And then into this automation, we have different actions to perform.
Exactly.
And then we can define several actions, and this one is the first one.
Exactly. And I think I can do better. It's cool to send an email, but it's way better to call the customer, to engage with the customer, to make sure that you understand its needs. And to do that, it's super easy again. You just click on the little widget. You select the activity type that you want to plan. For me, it will be a call. It will be an introduction call to make sure that I present myself to the customer and I qualify the needs of the customer. And I will assign the activity as soon as I get the lead, so the same day as I get the assignation. And in version 17, you can decide to assign this activity to a specific user, could be me, could be Allan, or the dynamic user based on the record. It means that in the case of a CRM, it will be assigned to the salesperson assigned to the opportunity.
Okay, when I see this, it's working great, I guess. But the problem is, in my opinion, this automation will run, but as a salesperson, you still want to keep your flow under control.
Yes.
So how could we know that actually this automation was activated as run?
Maybe we can add a tag on the opportunity.
Makes sense. Adding a tag on the opportunity showing that this customer has actually been contacted already by the automation.
Again,
Thanks to
it's
the automation.
super easy to do. You just click on update the record. You select what you want to update. For me, it will be the tag. And I want to set the tag as contacted. Like that, I will make sure that everyone across the sales team will see the tag and will know that this lead has been contacted. But I think we can do better.
Yes, because here the CRM is only used by salespeople usually. Then we also have other people that eventually are, for which it's necessary to let them know that.
For example, the accountant.
The accountants,
the purchase managers,
the purchase, and so on. So we could eventually think of adding a tag on the contact form.
Yes.
On the contact, yeah.
Because the contact is shared across the platform, it will be super useful to add a tag there to make sure that everyone knows that that company is actually a prospect.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, you've understood it right. We can know from Odoo 17 update fields across different models in one single automation.
Yeah, and this is a very important feature because what we used to be able to do is to retrieve information from other models. So for instance, if you were on the sales model, then you could access the customer and you could access the email of the customer. But now, thanks to this new cross-model update feature, we can actually do the other way around. So it means that when you have an automation which is running on a certain model, in that case here, the opportunity, we can access fields of another model, in this case here, the customer, and then change the value of those fields. Here in that case, we'll add a tag, but we could also, for instance, think of changing the email address, changing the phone number. Actually, the possibilities are kind of limitless.
It sounds hard, but actually it's super easy to use. Let me show you. I will just select my customer, go into his contact detail. I will search the tag on this contact form, just like that, and I can add a tag on his contact form that will say he's a prospect. And just like that, you've just updated a field across different models in Odoo without being a developer or a consultant.
Well, you just promised us that it works. Can we show that working, actually?
Yes, let's test that. So I will go into my pipeline and assign a lead to myself in my new stage. Let's do that. New lead, I will choose Deco Addict, and I will just add the opportunity into my CRM. And as you can see, automatically Odoo added the tag onto the opportunity. He also assigned an activity for me to call the customer. He sent a message to the customer, and if I open the contact form of Deco Addict, you will see that the tag prospect has been added to his contact details.
Okay, amazing. Actually, this cross-model field update feature is opening a world of possibilities, in my opinion. And one case that we often had, in the CRM specifically, is that you have different stages. At the end, you have a one stage. Usually, you send a quote, and when the quote is confirmed, it means that, the opportunity should be in the one stage.
Yes.
We used to have to do this manually. Now, with this cross-field update feature, we can do it, actually.
And we can do it super easily. Again, let's select a quotation. Open the Studio application, automation. I will create a new automation that I will call 1. And the thing that we want to do is, as soon as a quote is confirmed, we want to set the opportunity linked to that quotation as 1. And again, it sounds super complicated to do that, but it's actually super easy to do. The trigger would be state is set to sales order. Sales order in Odoo are a confirmed quotation. Mm-hmm. And the action to do would be to update the record. The record is the opportunity linked to the specific sale order, and to update the stages and to set it as 1 in this case.
Okay. Shall we see that working once again?
Again, let's try to test it. So let's go Studio. Let's go into my CRM, like I do every day, and let's send an offer to this customer. Let's take my template, and I will confirm the quote as I do every day in my daily job. But as of version 17, thanks to Odoo Studio, you will see that the opportunity has automatically been marked as done.
I love it. I simply love it. And what's important here is that we took the example of the CRM and the sales module, again, just for the sake of the example, but it obviously applies everywhere in Odoo, especially on projects, on tasks. The number of automation that you can think of is kind of unlimited.
Yes, I really love this functionality. But I think you all get the point that both Alan and I really love that automation features. Maybe we can move on to the next surprise of the day.
Which is approvals.
Yes.
Refined approvals.
Yes. So indeed, we've completely improved the approval flows in Odoo with 3 new features. First of all, you will be able to send users notification. It will also be possible to manage those notification order. And finally, you will see that we improve the accessibility and the visibility of those approvals to make sure that everyone could use those approvals in Odoo.
Shall we see that in live again?
Yes. Maybe we can continue on to the sales flow. Do you have an idea in mind, maybe?
Yes. In my daily job, I'm often confronted to the case where you have different approvals from different departments. So, for instance, if you have a huge sales order, for a very high amount or this type of things, before confirming it, what you want is you get the approval of the sales manager, but also from the manager of another department. In that case, for instance, the purchase manager. So what we need here is to have a double approval flow.
Okay.
From the sales manager and from the purchase manager.
Let's try to do that. Once again, I'm just a sales guy. Let's try if I can do that in Odoo. So I will open my sales application. I will select a quotation. And just like in previous version, you open Studio and you click on the button where you need the approval. In this case, it will be the confirm button, and I will set approval rules. So we have two types of approvals in this case. The first one will be for the sales administrator. I'm just looking for the sales administrator.
One thing important here, if you are not familiar with the notion of groups in Odoo, there is nothing complicated in this. It's exactly the same type of group that you find in the access rights. You know, when you connect on Odoo, you go to the parameters, the access rights, then per module you have different levels, I would say, of access right. Here we are finding the exact same groups, but you can also create groups just specifically for the approval rules here. And this is usually a best practice as well, not to match the access right groups with the approval groups.
Yes, indeed. So actually, in this case, Mitchell admin is the manager, is the sales manager. He will be the one validated this part of the rule, and then for the purchase, it will be Mark demo. So I need to select the right group, administrator, and it will be Mark demo. But what you see now on my screen is that you have the possibility to notify users that there is an approval that needs to be validated, that is waiting, basically.
Yeah.
And it's super important in case of purchasing, for example, because the people that will send the request for quotation or making the POs needs to be aware that they need to do those purchases in order to fulfill the customer needs.
Yeah, and this is something which is new because in the past we used to be able to notify the responsible of the approval, which is already fine, but there are also other people related to this sales order in our case here, for which it's necessary to notify them. So you can just notify basically everyone you in.
Yes, so in my case I will choose Joel, who works at the purchasing department, and Laurie, who is the accountant of the company.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for the applause. I see here that you have exclusive approval. What does that mean, actually?
Actually, we just rephrase an existing functionality. It means that a user can only validate one part of the rule.
Okay.
Let's take the example of the CEO. The CEO is both the sales administrator and the purchase administrator also. And if I activate the exclusive approval, the CEO can only validate one part of the rule.
So even though if he is part of the two approval groups,
yes,
he would need the approval of a second person.
Exactly.
Okay, perfect. If I may have a personal opinion here, I think it's amazing to be able to create approval rules straight from there, from the sales model. But if you want to change them or just review what's actually the approval flow, I do believe it's a little bit too small.
Okay, I think I can show it better. Let's close Studio and let's go into my main menu. And if you type Studio approval rules, you get a list of all of your approvals. And that's also a new screen, because actually we completely redesigned the screen to make sure that it's much more clearer and also much more easy to use for an user. And one thing that I didn't talk about yet is the notification order. It means that, for example, in this case, we have two levels of approvals, and actually you can decide when the user will be notified. So if I take my case, for example, if I select 2 for Joel and Laurie, they will be only notified when the first part of the rule has been validated.
Okay, so it means that if we have very complex approval flows, with, for instance, 3 people requesting to approve here the sales order, and sometimes these approval flows are taking a very long time, so it could take up to 2 weeks in some companies, then we make sure that the people at the end of the flow are not getting notified before actually it's their time to approve here in the flow.
Yes. Let's test it to see if it works. So let's go into my sales. Let's create a new quotation for Deco Addict, just like that. And let's try to confirm this quotation. As you see, Odoo has done 3 things. First, I validated the first part of the rule because I'm part of the sales administrator group. Then he tagged Joel and Laurie onto the chatter to make sure they are aware that there is an approval requested on this order. And finally, Mark Demo has been assigned an activity to grant approval to be able to confirm this order.
Yeah, and notifications here in the chatter are following the same rules as standard notifications, so you could be notified directly into Odoo or eventually by mail if you wish to.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, excellent.
I think it's time for you to talk about the report.
Yes, indeed.
I will leave you the controls. just like that. I will do that. And just before changing the slide, maybe I have a question for you. Why did we change the PDF report tool in Studio 17?
Yes, and this is a very important topic. Because we used to have indeed a report editor which has been completely reshaped. And the idea why we decided to reshape is to make it much more easy to use for end users. So what are actually end users? The idea is if you create a scale with 3 levels, you would have end users on the left, and you would have some functional people, technical consultants, and then at the end you would have some developers. And the idea is that we got the feedback from customers that changes, simple change, or changes that were seen as very simple, just like change the name on a report, or you see that type of very easy changes were a bit difficult to understand for end users. Obviously, if now you still have some XML coding skills, then you can just enter the view and then do some XML yourself. Okay. This is still available.
Okay, so if I understood, we change it because we make it easier for the end users to use it.
Indeed.
Okay.
And did we do this? Actually, we enable the use of the dynamic placeholder. Dynamic placeholder is something that you find a little bit everywhere in Odoo, on email templates, on description fields. You can just type a slash, and then you have access to a bunch of different functionalities, different, I would say, editors. And then here, again, you would have the way to access and make a relation to your field.
Allan, is there another reason why we change it?
The idea also is, technically speaking, to make the upgrade process a little bit smoother, because we got the feedback that these reports were sometimes a bit complex to upgrade when you were changing from one version to another. And then the idea here is to simplify as well the upgrade process.
Okay.
And technically speaking, there is a very little change that for those who were aware of this, they were studio changes were kind of recorded in what we called an inherited view, so the studio inherited view. Now, for reports, it's no longer the case. So changes are directly recorded onto the main views. It's only for reports, so everywhere on Odoo, for models and so on, it's still working with this inherited views. But for reports, the changes are directly done into the base views.
Maybe we can see it.
Yes, sure.
I think we will continue with the sales flow. And one demand I get a lot from customer or prospect is that they have a customer ID, and they want to show it on their quotation, for example.
Sure. So we will open the sales module. Here, one thing important is we sometimes already have some standard fields, that we can use. But here, for the sake of the example, we will add a field, and we'll add an ID. So we'll add an integer field. We'll name this integer field customer ID. Here we are, and we'll just save it. For now, there is not much new. There is a little thing, actually, that I really like, which is very important. If I'm closing Studio, if I type this field here, for instance, if I type 1000, what you see is we have a comma-separated number, which is it's working well for numbers.
Not for date.
But indeed, if it's an ID or a date, maybe like, I don't know, 2024, you don't want to have this comma-separated field, okay? So now this is a parameter that you can easily change within Studio. So you just go there, and then you disable the format number, and you have more like a standard format for numbers. All good?
That's great.
I guess now we have to change the reports.
Yes.
That's what we are talking about. So we'll go into the reports. The report name hasn't changed. It's still quotation/order, and then you can open it directly. Here we need to actually introduce this, make this new field available. And what we used to have before, what you see is you see the screen change a little bit. What we used to have is on the left some blocks, and then you could drag and drop these blocks, and that you have to match. You have to pay attention between fields and label fields. Now, again, the idea is to make this much more easy to use for end users. And then the only thing you have to do is actually to type the label. So you can type the label the way you like. So if you want to do the customer ID, you can do it. But for instance, if you want to do some brackets or some styling here for this very specific report, very easy to do.
But then we need to retrieve the value of this customer ID.
Yeah, and then we'll make, for instance, 2 dots. And then we'll do the slash. And when we have the slash, we have, again, a full different structure that we could use.
It's just like the backend with the notes that you can take, for example, onto opportunity or into a project task. You get a list of all the things that you can do to have beautiful notes, basically.
Indeed, indeed. And so when I go to field, I will find a field that I was using. So the ID, customer ID, here we are. We'll type a default value, for instance, 000. Okay, that's fine. And now we have it here.
Wow, super
Okay?
easy to do.
So it's very easy to use. What we can also do is do some styling.
Can we change also one of the existing standard field, for example?
So for instance, here are the references. Let's assume that, or the reference, if you want to make it to plural, so references, you just type here like that.
Okay.
And for instance, on this customer ID, when you just select it, it opens an editor, very Word-like thing, where you can, for instance, change the color. I don't know which color you prefer.
Maybe red?
Maybe red. Okay, let's do it. And then you have some gradients as well, if you want to use, not the color, but this one. Some gradient. I'm not doing styling here. It's not that beautiful. I'm not all good at design, but at least you get the idea. The idea is that these changes are much more easier to do.
And just to reassure you that if you messed up the color like Alan did, you can reset the report as standard.
Yes, indeed. So you have a reset report button, and it resets the reports directly to the standards. One thing to pay attention here as well is when you have these reports that are shared across status, for instance, for the sales orders, sales order could be a quotation or could be a quotation sent or sales order. When you type there on the name, you will see some conditions. If you are not used to read it, actually, it might sound a bit technical, but it's not. It's very simple, actually. Here, for instance, you see that docstake is in sent draft. So if it's sent or draft, most likely the word that we need to display is quotation. If you want to change specifically quotation name and you want to make it quotation no, for instance, for number, then you can just type it directly yourself.
It's great.
It's great? Perfect. So I can close this and move to the next surprise?
Yes, I think that's enough. But before going to the next surprise, I saw something when you open Studio. Let's take a sales order. Can you open it?
Yeah.
Let's open Studio.
Yeah.
What's this new add a button?
Indeed. That's a new thing. That's a new surprise that we didn't talk about. Actually, when you click on this add a button, well, very simple to understand. It will add a button. So you can just name the button. And then when you click on the button, what will Odoo do? It could trigger two things, either server actions, either eventually a method. So if it's a method, you just have to type the name of the method, all the regular methods that we use in Odoo. Or if you want to trigger a server action, then it opens a list with all of the server actions that are available. Maybe you do have a case for me to use that in real life?
Yes, but let's take, for example, Odoo. It's not the case, but let's imagine that Fabien needs to be aware of all the big quotation that we sent. Maybe we can add it as a follower for big quotation in just one click of a button.
Yes, indeed. So what we want is, you see, adding here directly as a quotation, as a follower. We could add, for instance, Joel Willis. So what I will do is I will remove Joel Willis to show it's working, then enter server actions. One thing to pay attention is when you want to access server actions, you need to be in debug mode, which I'm not. So we'll quickly activate the debug mode. Here we are. And then you can type server actions. And then we'll create a new server action. For instance, here, the server action name would be
add the CEO.
Add the CEO, indeed. Add the CEO to the chatter eventually. To the chatter. Sorry, typing skills are not great today. Here we are. And then what we need to do is to select the model on which it applies. In that case, it will be the sales order model. And most importantly, the type of action that we want to have. And here, the screen is exactly the same that we used to have for automations. It has been reshaped a little bit. What we can do, for instance, is here add a follower. And then who are we going to add as a follower? We're going to add Joel. We have it here, Joel is. And last but not least, what you don't have to forget is to create this contextual action to make it available directly. So now let's try it.
Yes.
We'll go back to the sales order.
Sales.
We'll open the form view here. Then we'll open Studio. We have add a button. We name the button, and we can, you see, name it very shortly, like add CEO, for instance. We don't need to be too long. And then we run the server action. We'll find the server action here, add the CEO to the charter. We confirm it, and now we have it. And so when we click on this button, add the CEO, you see now the CEO is added again to the chatter.
I have a question, because in the case of Odoo, we have plenty of offices, plenty of salespeople. We send quotation every day. And Fabien will not go into every sales order to add himself as a follower. Can we do it in the list view, for example?
Yes, indeed. It also works in the list view. So if you go to the list view and then you select, you see you used to have this action. So the server action that we created is still there, okay? But it's not that easy to use for end users again. So the idea is to create those buttons. And then what we could do is open Studio on the list view, and then again we add the button. And it works the exact same way.
Super nice.
Okay. That was actually a small surprise in the surprises. But we had one last feature to talk about.
Yes,
What was it about?
it was a brand new link between the studio and our beautiful website application.
Indeed. And to review this, we'll go back to the slides. So what we used to be able to do with Studio, and there is nothing new there, I would say, is to create new models. Okay, so you can create new models, a model, for instance, which is very specific to your campaign. Now, actually, thanks with Studio, you can also publish this model on the website, meaning that Odoo Studio will give you a tool to directly and very easily create a web page on your website, displaying all of these records of this model. And then also, what Odoo Studio will also do is to create for you seamlessly some pages for each record of this new model. And last but not least, now there is a kind of way to also let your visitors, website visitors, to create records in your newly created model. So for instance, what we could think of is let your visitors access a contact us form. What we used to be able to do is we were restricted actually to creating an opportunity, create a contact, create a task, and a few of these things. Now actually you can also create some records in your newly created model.
I have a case in mind, I think.
Please tell me.
Imagine that I am a car reseller in Odoo, and that I want to publish my cars that I sell online into the website. But I will also that people submit their cars for me to sell.
Yeah. Okay. Should be fine. I guess we can try this together. Not on this one. Here. So first step is actually very simple. We'll create an app. So we'll open Studio. We'll create a new module, or in technical terms, a new model. The name here will be cars. You can design the icon. You can change the icon,
of course,
as you know. But we'll leave it there. Next, and then the name of the menu again will be cars, and it will be a new model. So we'll do this. Here, you have to pay attention to the fields that you selected, because those are the fields that will be published automatically on the website. So here, for instance, in the case of a car, what we want is, for instance, a picture.
Picture,
very
yes.
important.
The price?
The price, indeed, that part of it. And then some tags to indicate some specifications. So we'll do it. Odoo Studio is creating this new model just for you. You could eventually refine the model with extra fields, but for now, we are fine with that. And then just to show the users here, the people here, what we have just done so far, we have created a module, cars, we open the cars, and then we can create new records. So in our case here, a new record will be a new car to be displayed on the website. I will display here, for instance, a Mercedes. For those in the room knowing me, they know that I'm very fan of Mercedes. We both are, actually. And we'll have to enter value. Price of Mercedes is not
30,000, for example.
Yeah, 30,000, for example.
And we could use the tags for the specification of the car.
Indeed. So, for instance, here, we could use the tags to display some features, the transmission, if it's a manual, the type of engine, and so on.
Let's take a manual, and it's a petrol engine.
OK, let's do this. Here we are. Perfect. So now we can hit and save if we want, and then we have our first record.
Maybe we can add a picture.
A picture, also very important for cars, indeed. And hopefully, I already had a picture of a Mercedes A-Class here in the database. Now we have it, and then we can save again. Now the idea, obviously, is to publish this on the website. And to do this, you will see that it's very easy to do. So you just open Studio, and you have a new menu. This new menu is actually called Website, very simple. And when you open it, you see different things. First thing is that you see if you have several websites, this feature is actually multi-website compatible. So if you want to publish this records, this model, I would say, only on a certain website, you can. Here, for the sake of the example, we'll just publish it on all the websites. Then it opens a widget. On this widget, you have to type the name. Actually, this is the name of the page that you are creating on the website. So here, for instance, will be the name cars, and then the URL is already created, name cars. You can change the URL if you need.
I see that we have something on the right. What is that?
This is actually a filter. It will filter the values that you will, or the records that will be displayed on the website. Okay. Here, in our example, we just have one record, so we won't filter on it, but we could eventually think of filtering only prices, cars that have a prices above a certain amount.
Or with a petrol engine, for example.
For instance, indeed. So we'll just save this. And what you notice is that Odoo seamlessly just created a new website page for cars and also created a page for each of your record that you have in your database.
So you mean he created a list page with all of your records and a page dedicated to each one of the records?
Indeed.
Okay.
And the best is to see that together in live. So actually now we are on our website, and then we can go into the cars. This is a newly created. You see the car is there. You can have it in Kanban view, so there, or eventually if you prefer the list view, you can have it in list view. You see the prices there, the tags there. And if you open it, then it opens the page of the records. And then eventually, now you can customize this with all the features of the website editor.
So you mean that it's fully compatible with our website editor?
True. It's just a page on the website, actually.
Okay.
So for those knowing the website, you know that we can, for instance, drag and drop some features here, change some pictures, and so on, and so on. So we can just do this, save, and then, I mean, it's very quickly done. It doesn't take so long to do it, actually.
But I had a second question for you at the start of the case. So I'm a car reseller. I resell car of people.
Yep.
And how can people send me the car to sell with the details, etc.?
So if you want your visitors, if you want to let your visitors creating cars in your model, this is something that you could do.
Okay.
So for instance, what we will do is we will go to, again, cars. We'll open the website here, and then we'll create a form. And this form, again, it creates a web form like we used to have. You could eventually refine it, but it's fine like that. We'll save it, and we can, for instance, type here BMW. BMW, and for instance, Series 1. Okay? We submit it, and when it's submitted, if everything works perfectly, in the cars, we should find our BMW one here. Now, this is for custom records. Okay? But what if we could do this on standard records as well?
Would be great.
It would be great indeed. And it's the case. Because, for instance, if you go to your CRM, and if you go for something which is usually not displayed on your website, you could go to sales teams. And when you go to sales teams and you open Studio, again, you see this website menu. And it works the exact same way. You can create a page for custom records, but also for base, I would say base models, records of base models.
So in this case, we will be able to display our sales team into our website.
Indeed. Okay. With Studio on a very, I would say, easy way to do it, standard way to do it with Studio. That were very nice surprises, 4+1 surprises. Do you think it's time to recap eventually what we have today?
Yes, I think it's time to wrap up.
And I'll let you do.
Yes, so we have 3 take-home messages for you. First of all, is that with Studio 17 is much more easier to end user. Fabien explained it yesterday, also Damien, the fact that now we completely rethink the Studio app to make sure that end user can use it. Then we also improved the approvals flow to make sure that they are powerful and they cover much more scope. And finally, custom records.
Custom records, indeed, which is, to be fair, one of my favorite new feature of this new version.
I think it's time for the Q&A.
Yep.
So I will display the QR code. Make sure to ask your question into the pad.
Yeah. In the meantime, thank you very much for attending. We hope that you are as much amazed as we are actually with these new features. We thank you for your attention. Thank you for staying us after lunch. And then we wish you a very great Odoo experience. See you at the Q&A. And if not, see you next year.
Thank you.
Hello guys. Can you hear me?
No, we can't hear you. If it's not working, we can. I think we have the pad here, no? We should have the pad. This is the pad, but it's not connected.
Okay, I hope everybody enjoyed the talk, and good job, guys. So we're amazing features. Let's start with the Q&A. The first question, is there any improvements in XML code which is generated by Odoo? For instance, more readable XPaths.
Okay. As far as I know, there is no improvement on like XML readability. But indeed, there is one thing that it's as I said, the inherited views are gone on the report side, only on the report side. So what you can do now, it will be more easy to understand actually where changes are. The idea also in the next versions to come, probably the minor versions, is to have a simplified XML editor which is displaying kind of everything into one single view. This is something actually that you can already have if you are in debug mode. You have this get view button, and then you can actually see everything into one single view. Yeah, but you don't have the colors there, I would say.
All right. For the next question, we have how shall we find out which fields are there in Studio Report? Like in the previous version, there was, as per the question, there was a side thing that actually shows all the technical fields.
Yeah, you want to say something?
You can.
Go on.
No, you can answer.
Okay.
You can answer.
Actually, if I'm understanding the question right, when you just type this slash and you access all the fields, well, this field feature, I don't recall the name exactly, but it's field type or field. Then you click there, you will have a list of all the fields that are on your model, available on your model. Yeah. So, but what we used to have indeed is this on the left, this type of field. So, yeah, label and field and column and so on. This is actually gone.
Okay. We have another question that says, just for clarification, is the hierarchy level approval notifying users as per the order or all at once?
So I will explain. So when you activate the notification order, basically in my example, I show that I notify two users, Laurie and Joel. They will notify at once, basically, because they are on the same level rule. But for example, if I had another group of users in my sales, if you remember sales validation, and they will be notified first before Laurie and Joel if I correctly configure the notification order.
True, and this is something actually that was a bit problematic in the previous versions. Is that when you had a multiple-level approval, all users were notified at the same time. Okay, but the problem is that this approval flow can be very long. So, for instance, after 2 weeks, you just forget that you have to approve because you are like the end of the approval flow. So now you won't get notified before actually it's your time to get notified. And one thing important as well is this approval feature, and these are the words of the product owner, Damien Bouvy. Actually, I think approval feature was released like 2 or 3 or 4 versions ago, like something like this, V13. I'm not exactly sure, but at the time, we were not so confident and it was used so much. Like, we believed that actually it would be restricted to only very specific cases for corporate companies and so on. And actually, we realized that it's very a feature which is used a lot actually by customers, which is loved by customers, and this is why we decided to improve as well. And one improvement that we didn't talk about is for technical robustness, technical solidity of it. So it used to be only view-based, so for the more technical view, you could go around this approval flows, for instance, while doing an API. This is no longer the case. So it's, in a technical perspective, it's much more strong, I would say, much more solid.
If you want to have more information about the approvals in Odoo, there is a dedicated talk to it tomorrow morning given by my colleague Clément, if you want.
Indeed.
Okay, I hope that answers the question. For the next question, it says, how can a PDF Studio report be displayed in the portal? For example, a new SO report displaying in the customer report, and the customer portal, they mean, actually.
I think it's standard. If you go to the customer portal, you have a button that says download, and you can download the PDF report directly from the portal.
I guess what they mean is like show the report instead of downloading it.
Show the report on the portal. I don't know why you would do this, but unless I'm mistaken, the idea indeed is if you, for instance, do some customizations of report, for instance, an invoice, okay, and you send out this invoice to the customer connects on the portal, on the portal he will see all the invoices that he has.
All right. The next question says, how will you handle the upgrade of customized reports without inherited views?
Yeah, this is actually something I would eventually advise you to check with our upgrade teams. So you could eventually go to see them at the developer booth.
Yes.
They will be much more able to do to answer your question than we are.
Okay. For the next question, it's more of like an explanation. It says, in the example you showed with the automatic creation of action, send an email.
Yes.
You had to choose an amount of days before triggering it. The question is it possible to exclude some days? For instance, not sending the mail in the weekends or out of business hours?
I don't think it is possible in standard, but Alan, if you have an idea.
Yeah, this should be tested, but what we can eventually think of is filters on the automation. For instance, if you define some dates, this could eventually apply. So we could apply some filters, I guess, on the automation.
Yes.
And then we could eventually you see set, I don't know, 7 fields or something like this, or on your record, and then it will be triggered if actually these fields are met or not. Like if you don't want the email to be displayed on a Sunday, but this should be tested. Yeah, this should be tested.
Okay. The next question says, what happens after upgrade of Odoo version with the fields which was specific place? Well, this is an unfinished question. We'll just move on to the next question. Is it possible to export the report format for import in other companies?
You can always export, so you have access to the views. Okay, so if what you mean is the format is like the XML views, you have access to the different views. Now the question is, are you really able to re-import this in another software? For instance, if we take the other way around, like if you have it on another software and you want to just like kind of do a copy paste in Odoo, unfortunately it won't be that easy.
All right. The next question says, what tasks are best suited for Studio? And what requires custom coding? And is the Studio sufficient for production, or should it only be used for prototyping?
This is actually an interesting question that I'm facing every day as a project manager. So it all comes to the methodology of implementation, right? So we know that Odoo, we have an implementation methodology that we call Quick Start. And in this Quick Start, I won't make you the whole methodology, 60 pages, a book of 60 pages that you probably find somewhere. So we'll all not cover the whole full methodology, but we have something in mind that we call standard first. Okay? So it means that if the customer, or if you are the customer, has a very specific request, the first idea is to try to answer the customer needs in the standard. If not, then we'll go to Studio, and last but not least, if really not possible, then we'll try to do it with custom development. Custom development being kind of the plan Z that we have here. And then what is between Studio and development? I would say it's case by case.
Case by case.
Indeed. Also, it depends of the size of the project, number of users, matter of performance.
The application concerned also.
Application concerns, indeed. What are your concerns about, I would say, the upgrade as well? The idea with Studio is not to reinvent the wheel. Okay, we don't make Studio just to we'll make Odoo a no-code thing. It's not the goal. The goal is to give the powers to people that are not coding, like not developers, to do slight customizations, customizations, but not development. That's the goal. So if you think about doing some heavy stuff, then obviously it will still be some development.
And it is definitely safe for production.
Yes, for sure. When I say safe for production is, can you use Studio on a production database?
Yeah.
Yes. Should you test your Studio customization on the test database?
Course.
Of course not. You should test it before.
Yes,
put it in
before.
production. Yeah.
All right. The next question says, does changing the base view not crush inherited views, such as an XPath will be pointing to nothing?
In the case of an upgrade, then I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, if it's in the case of an upgrade, then again, we'll be better to discuss this with the upgrade team.
Okay. One interesting question says, why should I use Studio and not directly the website builder?
To display records, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah. Then because it's I would say creating records, it's easy. You see, you have a database. You have kind of back-end and front-end. I would say while using Studio, you create a model behind, and then for this records, you can easily create them. You can easily change them. You can easily delete them. If you would think of creating everything onto the website, you will have like plenty of pages and so on that you have to manage. It will be very difficult to manage unless you have a very small amount or small number of products or things to display. That would kind of could work. Yeah.
Okay. For the next question says, how can we control page breaks on reports within Studio? I believe breaks, they mean
I guess when you want to go to the next page,
Next line.
yeah, there is a little XML thing that you have to add. I don't know it by heart, but if you find someone around, he will or she will probably be able to answer you, or you can eventually come to me and then we can discuss this together in private.
Okay. The next question says, can you show us how to add new columns on a sales order?
So for now, we won't be able to show it. I guess on the sales order new columns, not exactly sure what is the question.
And another question says, will the upgrade from 16 to 17 cause issues to existing studio reports? I
Again,
believe this is
still the same answer
this is
for
this
every
answer,
question.
yeah.
Yeah.
okay. How will you handle inheritance for reports that does not exist? What about the migration process? It's the same answer as well. Can I add lines in the website form?
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Okay. What are your top 3 features that have not yet made it into Odoo 17?
That's a nice question.
You can answer the question.
Go on with the first
no.
one. I need to think a little bit. What is not yet available? I think. Yeah.
If it were available, it will be available basically. If it were in the pipe, it will be available. That's the answer of our developers basically. If we have something in the pipe, we will publish it for version 17 basically.
Yeah, that's what Damien Bouvy said. He said everyone is asking me what is coming for next, like for Odoo 18, and he said if we already knew, it would be in 17 basically.
Okay. The next question says, very nice improvements and the usability of Studio, but will it be possible to rearrange the positions of fields that were created by Odoo?
By Odoo Studio, I guess.
No.
I guess. I guess they mean like the default form views, for instance, change the layout, something like this?
Yeah. On this drag and drop thing, I don't know if there are some improvements, but to usually command workaround is very easy. Is actually you just type a field, add a field with Odoo Studio on the model. Then we are not talking about reports, talking about model. You just add a field on the model, and then what you do is you open the XML Studio inherited view, and then you have the technical name of the field, and you just replace the name with an existing name of the model, and then it works fine. So, for instance, literally you could choose any type of fields that you have, and then replace the name with any existing field, and it works right. Kind of the way to rearrange it, I would say.
All right. The next question says, can we add an automated action that gets executed on a method call or method inheritance? I'm not sure what that means. For example, execute a server action when we send a purchase order.
For instance, when you send a purchase order, what comes to my mind is that the purchase order will be moved to the the sent status. So you have different status for purchases. It's the same like sales orders. Yeah, purchase order status, purchase sent, request RFQ. It's RFQ sent status, and then confirmed order or purchase order. Yeah, and then when you click on this send email, there is an action actually directly moving the status of the record to the purchase, the RFQ sent, and then if this is the triggers of the automation, it would work.
Simple answer is that yes, you can basically when the stage is sent for request for quotation, you can trigger an automation. Yeah. I think it's the simple answer.
This is what I like with you, Alexandre. You always have some simple answers.
Simple answers. The next question says, are there additional costs for Studio?
Yes, because as you may know, we have 2 plans, the standard plan and the custom plan, and the custom plan is more expensive, but you have Studio.
All right. For the next question says, what happens with translations when a label is changed in a report?
This is something that should be tested, actually.
Maybe you can ask the developer.
Yeah, should be asked, or eventually the product owner. There is a Studio booth. So Damien Bouvy is probably there as well. Will probably be there as well also. So this is something we need to check if everything which is working for translations. Yeah.
All right. Next question says, is it possible to automate emails if a customer books an appointment from the website page? I'm not sure what this means, but I guess the website.
What I will do is I will create a new lead as soon as an appointment is taken. And when the lead is created, I will trigger an automation. This is how I will do it. But again, It depends on the use case.
It's a good case, but there are also some standard emails that are sent when an appointment is confirmed. By the way, there is an appointment talk. What's new in appointment tomorrow, Friday, in this room at 10 a.m.
Yes, and I think we just have the time to one last question.
Yes. How to edit the advanced PDF quotations? Is this doable with Studio?
You can, in the for the, like, let's say the new part, so the part above and the part below. I'm not sure exactly what you can do, but in the middle, you're still able to actually, add some fields and change the labels, like I did before.
All right. I guess the time is already done. Thank you, everybody, and thank you guys for your talk.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.